again to tonight's candidate forum for Lower Merion School Board of Directors. As Jonathan said, I'm Susan Hunt and I'll be moderating tonight. A couple words before we begin. The purpose of tonight's candidate forum, like last week's, is to provide time for our candidates to express their views and ideas in a structured question and answer format in order to allow us to better understand each candidate's position on a variety of issues of interest to this committee and to help our committee members develop an informed choice. The process of developing the format, composing and organizing questions for last week's Commissioner and Arbor Council forum as well as this evening's forum was done by DCLMN committee volunteers, and I'd like to especially thank again Jim Spear, Adrian Seltzer, Leanne Smith, Stephanie Schell, Ivan Haskell, and Mitchell Rothman with all the work they did in preparing tonight's event. So thank you very much. I'd also like to thank everyone here who submitted topic areas and questions for tonight. Questions were submitted to me by email by committee members, and all questions submitted were reviewed and considered by our subcommittee members for tonight's forum. So briefly, I'd like to review the format for tonight with our candidates. We'll begin with opening statements. Each candidate will have 2 minutes to make their opening statements, and then we will move directly into our question and answer period. During the Q&A, each of you will have the opportunity to answer 6 questions in total this evening. 5 of those questions will be directed to groupings of 3 candidates at a time, with 1 grouping of 2, and you will have up to 2 minutes to provide your responses. We'll then have 1 last question directed to all of our candidates, and you will each have 1 minute to respond to that. Afterward, each of you will have 1 minute to make your closing statements, and we will adjourn the forum at that point. So that's a lot of different times, so I want to point your attention to Stephanie, who's our timekeeper tonight. So she's seated right there in front, so you can keep your eye on her. Stephanie going to hold up a card indicating when you have 1 minute, then 30 seconds, then 10 seconds left to respond. When Stephanie holds the Time's Up card, here it comes, you must enter comments at that time. So finally, there are a couple of rules to go over before we begin. Tonight is question and answer format only. Candidates may not interject or comment during another candidate's response time. As we did last week, we've tried to pack in as much as possible for tonight. So it's very important that candidates please adhere to all time frames allotted for your opening, closing statement, as well as each question posed. Candidates will not take any questions from the floor this evening. However, we do encourage our members to reach out to candidates directly for any other specific questions that may not be covered tonight. All right, so let's get started with introductions. Beginning from my right, we have Mary Brown, Shayna Kalish, Lucy Klein, Peter Lee, Sean Mooring, Zuba Robinson, and Tanya Schreiber. So I want to thank you all for stepping up for these very, very important positions and for participating tonight. We really, really do appreciate it. All right, so if you're ready, we'll have our candidates begin with their opening statements, starting with Mary, and we'll move down the panel from there. So Mary and Stephanie, when you guys are ready, we'll go ahead and get started.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Mary Brown, as Susan has said, and it's in front of me. I started my relationship with Lower Merion School District in 1974. I was a young mother of 1 child, and I was hired to teach Latin, which I did for 32 years at Harrington and Lower Merion. And as a result, had a wonderful experience in terms of what we accomplish here at Lower Merion School District. My husband graduated from Lower Merion High School. We have 5 children, all of whom attended, as you can imagine, almost every possible school in Lower Merion. And when I was at Lower Merion, my Latin students and I started homework clubs. So Lower Merion students would go to 4 elementary schools on a weekly basis, and I would often be with them. So it gave me an introduction into the families and the sense of community that we have here, which we nourish and maintain. In addition, my husband Jim and I ran Roosevelt Villanova Sports at Howard High School for 27 years, and I've been serving Margaret AA in the sports leagues for 10 years. So it is a way of providing additional service to Lower Merion and the Borough of Margaret that I'm seeking the endorsement.
Okay, thank you.
Hi everyone, my name is Shana Kalish and I'm running for school director. I live in Marion Station with my husband Ari and our 2 kids, Nina who's 5 and will be starting at Kingwood Elementary in the fall, and Wesley who's a 1.5 years old. I'm a lifelong Democrat and proudly so. I worked on the Hillary campaign in 2016 and afterwards I felt really strongly that if I expected change I needed to step up and dedicate myself to doing that work. I know the opportunities I want to see for my children, and I firmly believe that every child should have those same opportunities, regardless of race, socioeconomic status, gender identity, orientation, or special needs. A bit about my background: I graduated from Lehigh University with a major in cognitive science. I then went on to Penn State, where I earned my master's in science and educational psychology. I learned and worked on scholarly research on reading, testing, program evaluation, and supporting students with learning disabilities. Educating our children in a way that works for them and for the community is my highest priority. I'm especially interested in working with the curriculum committee to ensure that our students are engaged and successful in their school experience. It's because of this marriage of my passion and expertise that I'm seeking your endorsement for the role of school director. As the parent of 2 very young kids who will be amongst the first few grades to take part in the new grade division, I bring a unique and necessary perspective to the board. Because we're just at the beginning of their educational adventure, I'm committed to the success of our schools for the long haul. My priorities as school board director will be first and foremost academic excellence. It's what our taxpayers expect and it's what our students deserve. To ensure low class size with construction in the middle school, to provide an equitable education for all students, to proceed in a fiscally responsible manner, and to pursue all avenues to expand kindergarten to full day. Again, I'm Shane Kalish and I'm asking for your endorsement for school director. Thank you.
Thank you, Shane. Lucy.
Good evening. Thank you for the opportunity to introduce myself. My name is Lucy Klein. My husband and I live in Ardmore with our 3 children, who all attend Lower Merion schools, 1 at each high school and our youngest at Walsh Valley. I am a proud Democrat and have been very involved in the school district for the last 12 years, as a parent and as a volunteer. I was the HSA president at Penn Valley Elementary School and then the president of the Interschool Council, the umbrella for the parent organizations in the district. One of my many roles with the ISC was to organize the candidate forums for school board elections. During the 2017 debate, one of the questions the committee included asked about special education. Several of the candidates considered it an unfair question, despite the fact that nearly 1/3 of LMSD students receive special education services of some type. That's when I realized that we need leadership that understands public education, leadership that wants to make sure that we provide not only an excellent education, but also schools that foster individual growth and value the overall well-being of students. My deep knowledge of the district, both its strengths and its weaknesses, combined with my professional experience as a national projects director for an international nonprofit, a city planner with the Regional Planning Commission, as well as an assistant deputy mayor under Ed Rendell, with a specific focus on identifying opportunities to cut costs, improve productivity, and enhance service delivery, provide me with the budget and policy experience necessary to be an effective school board member. I am seeking your endorsement because I am passionate about public education. I believe that I have the analytical, leadership, and collaborative skills needed to move the district forward, and will work to instill an environment that is responsive and receptive to parents, staff, students, and the community at large. My service to the school board can contribute a voice that is reasoned and experienced in the service of our students. Thank you.
Thank you, Lucy. Peter.
Thank you for the opportunity to introduce myself. My My name is Peter Lee. I live in Ardmore with my wife and 3 children. 10 years ago, I stood before this committee as a supporter of public education and a proud Democrat, asking for your endorsement for Lower Merion School Director. At the time, I was a consultant working with Fortune 500 companies, helping them leverage data and technology to improve their operations. Over the last 10 years, my commitment to education has grown stronger. I shifted the focus of my consulting practice away from corporations and toward schools and nonprofits, working to improve education for disadvantaged communities. I believe that all children deserve an excellent public education. I'm helping these organizations improve student outcomes, analyze program efficacy, and use their budgets more efficiently. I'm helping these organizations leverage technology judiciously and determine when technology can help and when technology won't help. In addition to my professional background, my family currently has a child at every level of Lower Merion schools. Next year, we'll have students at Harriton, Lower Merion, and Penn Valley Elementary. These experiences provide me with great context and appreciation for the quality of our programs and schools. We are blessed to have world-class schools here, and I believe that maintaining their quality is critical for Lower Merion. As an incoming board member, my goal will be to listen and to help make sound and transparent decisions. As a proud Democrat, I will work to represent all families and students of Lower Merion. I'm not coming in with a suite of predetermined solutions, and I have no agenda other than the fact that I have relevant experience and a desire to serve our community. I'm asking for your endorsement today because I believe my skills and background will be assets to the board as it works to provide effective leaders.
Thank you, Peter. Sean.
Thank you for this opportunity to introduce myself. My name is Sean Mooring. I'm a lifelong Democrat and 12-year resident of Penn Wynne, where I live with my wife and 2 sons. Professionally, I have spent the last 20 years promoting social justice and equity for all in the philanthropic and nonprofit sectors. I currently serve as the Director of Strategic Initiatives for Resources for Human Development, a national human services organization where my primary role is managing the organization's strategic plan. Throughout our years in Lower Merion School District, I have been an active and involved parent, starting a robotics club at Penn Wynne Elementary School, serving as a parent on the Parent Advisory Council at Ballard Kenwood Middle School, and most recently on the Lower Merion District's School District's Achievement Imperative Task Force, where parents, teachers, and administrators work together to address the issues related to closing the achievement gap in Lower Merion. I stand before you this evening seeking your endorsement because I want to bring my experiences and knowledge and skills to bear on ensuring that all children in Lower Merion and Narberth have access to the same world-class public education that my children have experienced. I believe the All Forward Strategic Pathways for Lower Merion School District Plan is an ambitious plan that reflects the district's commitment to excellence and innovation. To me, the greatest challenges facing the district going forward will be managing the continued implementation of that plan while also navigating the enormous enrollment growth, managing fiscal constraints, and attacks on public education. I would greatly appreciate your support in supporting me in my bid to be among the school board directors identified to address these issues. Thank you.
Thank you, Sean. Sue.
Good evening and hello. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Sue Robinson and I live in Gladman. I'm a lifelong Democrat committed to public education and an incumbent school board director. In my 23 years in Lower Merion, I've come to know the outstanding Lower Merion schools from the ground up, starting some 18 years ago as a classroom parent. I'm the proud mother of 4 children, all of whom attended Lower Merion schools, and I care deeply about serving all of the children in our public schools. I ran 7 years ago because I believed that we needed to make sure that we were adequately preparing our students for the adult life that awaits them, that we needed to continue the excellence of our curricular and co-curricular programs, even in times of unprecedented enrollment growth and fiscal constraints, and that we needed to manage our resources effectively. We've made progress in all areas, including developing an innovative, progressive strategic plan which is focused on the holistic needs of our students. We are working on managing enrollment growth while maintaining academic excellence through facilities planning and careful financial management. And our conservative budgeting and managing our AAA bond rating has enabled us to keep within Act 1 limits. Yet there are significant challenges ahead, the greatest of which is how to continue our high-quality public education while experiencing enrollment growth, fiscal constraints, and attacks on public education. I'm seeking your endorsement because I believe I can help meet these challenges. I am passionate about the power of education on individual lives and the opportunities it brings forth. As a certified public accountant, I bring organizational, analytical, and financial skills to the board, and as an experienced board member, I know what it takes to work with the other board members, the superintendent, and stakeholders across the district to address our challenges. I would greatly appreciate your support in my bid to continue as a school board director. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Hi, my name is Tanya Schreiber, and I moved to Lower Merion in 2008, and shortly thereafter began attending civic meetings, board of commissioner meetings, and school board meetings. I was attending in 2014 when the strategic plan was first brought out and approved, and there were fewer than 7,000 students in our school district. Today, we're at over 8,600, and that has led to, in the last few years, the school district adding up to 2 students per classroom. And that is what has driven me to apply yet again to be a school board director, is because I really feel that we made a commitment to that strategic plan and to what we wanted to provide our students, and that includes low class size. So the question isn't what the vision is, it's how we're going to achieve that vision and how we're going to make that commitment. As the number goes, we're anticipating adding over 700 more students, and that would bring us to over 9,000 students in the next 10 years. I've been at the last Board of Commissioners forum last week, and I have met with many of you. I have met with different civics and Board of Commissioners, and understand that there are many times where instead of just communicating, we need to engage. We need to have involvement. I've seen the power and passion that Lower Merion brings to every activity, every event. I've seen the task forces. And I believe that if we can engage the community more effectively, if we can bring in their ideas and get them more involved, I believe that we can solve these problems. We have great challenges ahead of us, but I do believe this community is committed to solving those. We simply need to increase the cooperation and engagement that we have. Thank you very much for coming. Thank you for your involvement in volunteering all your time for this, and I hope to get your endorsement. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all very much. All right, so let's get into our Q&A period. Just a reminder, you'll have up to 2 minutes for each response. Okay, so the first question will begin with Mary, and then Shayna, then Lisa. And the first question is this. Lower Merion continues to experience a large influx of students into the district. As a director, how would you address this issue with regard to facilities and education quality in light of financial constraints?
Oh, let me go.
Oh, sorry.
The current school board is certainly grappling with this enrollment boost, which does not seem that it's going to abate. It looks as if it's a 10-year projection. So the plan for a new middle school is an attempt by, conscientious attempt by the school board and the superintendent and the Lower Merion School District staff to help provide excellent educational opportunities for all children by shifting the 5th grade from the 6 elementary schools into the 5th grade at Ballachammon Middle School, Welsh Valley, and then the new school. So I trust that the school board will continue to engage the community, evaluate what criteria we share in terms of establishing and maintaining an excellent education for every child in every grade. And so I'm optimistic as a potential contributor to that, as a school board director or as a community advisor. I think that this current school board is doing a very, very conscientious effort to do this.
Thank you, Mary.
Increased enrollment is a fact of life in Lower Merion these days, and it's not going to change. So as such, I think that the new school plan that the school district has come up with and moving fifth grade into the middle schools is a good idea. It alleviates the stress on our current facilities by removing a third of the student body population from the middle schools and removing the students that are in the fifth grade from elementary schools. This allows us to have fewer students in each classroom and each teacher to then maintain the high educational quality that the kids are receiving by more individualized attention. If we didn't address it in a way like that, we would look at things like overcrowding, increased class size beyond what I, as a parent or an educator, would feel comfortable with, and probably more portables, which I know the students and families aren't happy with, and the neighbors of the schools don't particularly love. I think the one challenge with this new school is going to, or not the one challenge, but one large challenge is going to be proceeding in a fiscally responsible way. So that would definitely be one of my highest priorities were I elected in terms of the new school construction, is to focus really strongly on making sure that we proceeded with the construction and implementation of a new school in a very fiscally responsible manner.
Shana, thank you. Lucy.
I believe that the need for a new school is clear. Our enrollment is up by about 20%, which is double the enrollment increase that any other school district around here is facing. And in fact, there are some school districts in the area that are actually losing population, yet Lower Merion has increased incredibly. Building a middle school will also lessen the pressure on the current elementary schools. There are 6 elementary schools, and there's so many students in there that they've had to move toward art on a cart. So instead of having an art classroom, you have an art teacher taking her supplies or the supplies to the various classrooms. And so in terms of equity and making sure that everyone has access to all the curricular and co-curricular programs that Lower Merion values so highly, I do believe that a third middle school is necessary. I know that there is some concern about moving to a 5 to 8 program with the 5th and 6th graders, with the 7th and 8th graders. I personally am fine with that. I find that our schools have been our administration has been very good with transitions both from elementary to middle and from middle to high school, and that's not something that I see that's going to change simply because the grades have changed. I think they worked really hard on that. And also the research shows that it's better to be in a school for longer. So a 5 to 8 program in terms of having consistency in your schooling is better than a K to 6 and then a 7 and 8 program. One critical responsibility as a board member and as a board as a whole is to ensure that the staff and professionals managing the project have sufficient talent and resources to properly oversee. And we live in a community that we're fortunate to have so many exceptionally talented professionals in many fields. And I will advocate for a citizens committee of experts, whether it's architects or builders and educators, to meet with the school board and the administration regularly to help advise the board and the superintendent. Thank you.
Thank you, Lucy. Okay, our next question will begin with Shana, and then we'll go to Lucy and Peter. So the next question. What are your feelings on the school board's relationship with the community at large? And do you have any ideas on how that relationship can be improved? Please be specific about how you would engage our citizens.
That is a very good question and one I've definitely been thinking about. I think the best way to engage our community is to really improve the communication between the school board and our community. It's an essential function of our school board, and one that I know that some of our community may have felt that the school board may not have been doing as great a job as they could have been doing. There are some things that I would hope to change about that, some small changes that I came up with. One is that a lot of the things the school board does, makes available on their website, meeting minutes, agendas, things like that, have a lot of jargon in them and can be kind of hard for the community to understand. And so a program of having each topic have brief 1 to 2 sentence summaries in plain English can really go a long way. Just in terms of an approach to working with the community, I would really try to meet people where they are. In terms of the families, that would be working with the HSAs, the homeschool associations, and the ISC, and working on the committee for communication and community engagement. In terms of actually communicating to non-family community members, things like making the school board newsletter available to everybody and regularly updating our Facebook page would be things that I think we can do. But really, for me, the goal would be to get community investment so that people really feel invested in the outcome of our schools, even if their kids aren't going there, but that it be a point of pride that people who have expertise want to come to classrooms and share what they have and be involved with our schools and actually care what's going on beyond school buses, making traffic and things like that. Thank you.
Thank you, Shane. Lucy?
As a longtime parent in the district, I do believe that communication has improved over the last 12 years, yet there's lots of room for improvement. And I think a key piece to that is keeping the channels open in both directions and having more opportunity, not just for the district to share out into the community, but also have more opportunity for parents and community members and students to have to be able to provide input back into the schools. One possible idea for this, ever since Superintendent Copeland came to the district, he hosts Ask the Superintendent meetings that are, I don't know, maybe once every 6 weeks or 2 months. There are sometimes on Sunday afternoons, sometimes in the morning, and it's just an open forum where he is there and anyone who wants to come to the meeting can come and ask questions. And you can see his brain going when someone brings up something that either he's hearing a lot or he hadn't heard before. You can see how he wants to follow up on that. And I think that having similar type meetings for Ask the School Board would be a very useful way for people to have the opportunity to just have a face-to-face, because I think that's much better than email or newsletters or anything like that. The opportunity to talk face-to-face, I think, is very important. I think there also needs to be better communication between the school district and the community at large. You know, it's really easy for the district to send information to parents because we are in their systems, they have all of our information. But to have some sort of newsletter that goes out to the community, I think would be very helpful. And one way to do that is to connect with the township and perhaps, you know, advertise it within the township newsletters and some of the things that they do so that we could have a more concerted effort to do that. And I think it is important to point out that community engagement is part of the strategic plan, and as a priority of the school board is to sort of implement that strategic plan of community and engagement is an important part of that.
Thank you, Lucy. Peter?
So I'd say overall I agree with a lot of what Lucy was saying. I think that, you know, as a parent in the district, I really appreciate how the communication has improved over the last 10 years. Communication's much more frequent and a lot more proactive than it used to be. I think, apologize, but my mind goes right to technology. One way we could improve just sort of low-hanging fruit is to look at sort of the broad communication platforms. I know when you try to find information about the district, especially board materials, there are 2 different places where you have to go to get these things. You see the videos in one place, you see the meeting agendas and the materials in another place. There are better platforms we can have that probably consolidate those 2 to make a more seamless experience for the community at large. And especially if there are content management systems that will not only host videos, but provide automated transcripts of meetings, which will speed things up for everyone. Instead of having to sit through the entire meeting, perhaps you could just read the transcript. And I think one of the things Lucy mentioned also is just sort of communication, not just for parents. As a parent, I appreciate all the information that's presented to me, but communication to community members who don't have children in the district, I think is one area of focus.
Thank you, Peter.
All right, so our next question begins with Lucy, then Peter and Sean. The CDC and the American Academy of Pediatrics have recommended that middle and high schools start at 8:30 a.m. or later to give students the opportunity to get the amount of sleep they need, but most American adolescents start school too early. Do you agree that start times should be later? If so, how would you implement changes and what might be your timeline?
I believe the research on adolescent sleep is very clear. Later school start times are better for high school students. And I'm a firm believer in that. I do think that we need to acknowledge that there are costs associated with that, most notably increased transportation costs. And because that it requires significant changes in busing. As we move towards opening up a new middle school, although the timing in my mind isn't great, I would love to be able to, start to do the school change time later, starting later. I do think from a fiscal responsibility and looking at efficiency in terms of work, it probably does make a lot of sense to hold off on changing the start time until the new middle school opens. Because that's a point in time when there's going to be a lot of work done looking at the bus routes, looking at how busing is done, and that would be an appropriate time for the changing. And I say that knowing that if we do that, then that's going to be too late for my kids. So I do acknowledge that, but I do think that in terms of being very thoughtful about it, that is something that we need to consider. The other really critical part is that change is hard, and I think that we need to make sure that we have a really good change management program in place. Another one of the big issues that people talk about is athletics, and if you push high school times later, that it's going to impact student athletes. I'm the parent of several multi-sport athletes, and I don't believe that that's as big of an issue as it has been made to be. But I do think the bigger challenge is going to be working with community groups and community access to the fields, because if the schools are there later, then the community groups will have less access. So I think that the district needs to be very proactive, working with the community to manage that change. Thank you.
Lucy?
I'll start by saying I support later start times for our older students. There's a lot of evidence to show that sleeping later and longer is necessary for the older kids. I think, if in an ideal world we could just snap our fingers and we could move the schools to later start times right away. I think there are several logistical and implementation challenges we need to face. Lucy mentioned some of them. And as well, there are, for as many people that support later start time and are vocal about it, once we start moving in that direction, we'll start to find out there are parts of the community that don't support later start times. And we'll need to work with those folks to make sure there aren't any unintended consequences. So we'll need to be very thoughtful about that. And also make sure that the costs are minimized. We have several budgetary challenges coming up.
Thank you, Sean.
So thank you for the question. I think definitely my opinion, the research is clear in terms of adolescent sleep times and the need for our older adolescents to sleep later. As a parent of 2 high school students who is responsible for waking them up in the morning, I also support later start times for them. But I also recognize that there are challenges, as Lucy and Peter noted, with adjusting those schedules, the impact that it will have on then the middle school and elementary school students and what those challenges will be, but also as the parent of an athlete, understanding what those changes in start times might do for some of the sports programs, and particularly if other districts aren't on the same schedule, matching transportation and getting our students to the athletic fields and participating. So I think that is definitely something that we will continue to wrestle with, and that the sooner the better. I also agree that with Lucy's contention that although it would not benefit my students who will both be graduated by the time the middle school starts, it may make sense to combine that change with the adjusted time frames that we'll have to be looking at in terms of bus routing that will accompany the opening of the middle school.
Okay, thank you. and begins with Peter, Sean, and then Suba. Given the cost increases associated with increasing enrollments, what would be your priorities in setting a budget in the current Act 1 environment? Additionally, should the district implement programs like all-day kindergarten and preschool?
Certainly the rising enrollment presents a challenge for the budget. It's the primary driver of our school budget. The class sizes and staffing associated with supporting that account for, upwards of 75% of our budget, which makes it, pretty much a fixed cost. That makes the other non-fixed costs critical to balancing and limiting budget increase or tax increases. So we're going to have to very carefully evaluate programs, make sure that our investments are used wisely and are effective, that we're not spending money on things that aren't helpful to our kids. I think the district has definitely started to do that. I know the superintendent has been evaluating programs, and I think my focus on the board, my emphasis will be on continuing that practice, making sure we're evaluating and making sure we're getting a return on our investment. The debt service is also a big component of our budget, so with the building of the new school, that's going to impact that as well, so we'll need to focus to make sure that the new building comes in at or under budget. So continuing with the construction.
Thank you. Sean.
Great, yes. Definitely as a new school board director, recognize that the budget will be a major component and primary piece of what we need to contend with, and that our budget is set by our priorities and providing, excellent education and curriculum for our students is among our highest priorities. But then also noting that we must be fiscally responsible and understanding that we're working with constricted or limited resources within the Title I atmosphere, but we need to, as Peter mentioned, consistently manage and evaluate our programming so that we're making sure that as we move forward in ensuring that we have and can provide excellent opportunities for our students, that we're doing so in a way that we're not being wasteful and that we are ensuring that the programming that we're providing can be done in a way that is most beneficial to our students. And then we also have to continuously look at ways in which we can manage the enrollment growth, because with that we'll have to do things such as the building of this new middle school, but look at, as we build that out and look at the program that we're going to install, make sure that we are making the most sound investments that we can through that process.
Thank you.
Susan. Thank you for the question. It's a very complicated task to manage enrollment growth. We have had demographers figure out how much the enrollment will be for the next 10 years. And we've been updating that annually because our growth rate has been so high. It's the highest in Pennsylvania state, or the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. Specifically, we need to make sure that in terms of enrollment, that the class sizes are maintained, that curricular and co-curricular programs are maintained, that we have enough buses and bus schedules and textbooks and computers, and it just is a cascading effect of having additional students. As to the question of, and I agree with my colleagues here with respect to the rest of the information, as to all-day kindergarten and preschool, early intervention has been shown to be an excellent precursor to doing well in school. And so I believe that we should have all-day kindergarten at some point, However, I don't believe that within the Act 1 environment we'll be able to do that until enrollment is on its decline rather than on its rise. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so the next question begins with Sean, then Sula, and Tanya. What is your view of the current status of the achievement gap, and how do you think it should be addressed? Additionally, what are your thoughts on implementing minority achievement programs like the Power or Becton Scholars Program currently in our high schools at the elementary school level to get a jump on whole child education?
Great question, and thanks for that. As I mentioned in my introduction, I have been a part of the district's Achievement Imperative Task Force, and which I think has been very forward-thinking and innovative in terms of their approach to dealing with the issue and understanding that the issue of achievement gap is not one that's particular to Lower Merion, but it's something that is a persistent issue across the country. And I think that some of the initiatives that we've begun to pursue within the Achievement Imperative is really looking at how can we increase minority participation in honors and AP courses, but not only enrollment, but then also increasing the support that's provided to the young people. And I definitely would be in favor of creating programs like Becton Scholars and Power at the lower levels, whether in middle school and even in elementary school, where my own son, who is a Becton Scholar, they created Becton Buddies, where the high school students are going back to the elementary schools to provide mentoring and role modeling for the younger students. And so I think that would be something that would be very beneficial to continuing to pursue this in a very thoughtful and holistic way.
Thank you, Sean. Sula? Thank you. I agree with Sean's findings about the Achievement Imperative Task Force. Is the action arm of CARE, the Committee to Address Race in Education, and the CARE has been around since 1997, attempting to make an impact on the achievement gap. And to date, we've made some improvements and then some slipping back. And so we need to really focus on this. That would be a priority of mine going forward. And the Achievement Imperative Task Force has been working on things like hiring teachers of color and retaining them, providing them adequate support. Also, they have been involved with the one-on-one tutoring initiative, which we started for K through 12. And in terms of the Becton Scholars and the Power program, we currently have a couple of other programs that are at the elementary and middle school, but I believe that it would be a great idea to bring these down and also provide opportunities for them to be mentors to the younger children over time, giving them an opportunity to show leadership and develop their leadership skills.
Thank you. Tanya.
As some of you may know, I'm pretty passionate about this issue. I was brought up in a South American household, so I am standing on the shoulder of giants when it comes to programs like this and that help children that didn't have native speakers or literate parents. And so I can attest to the fact that without programs like this, I'd probably be a waitress or a babysitter. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but my mom sure is happy that I went to Cornell and Wharton instead. Anyway, so when I look at the achievement gap and the fact that much of our rankings, it seems, have to do with when you normalize for income level and education level of parents, that it seems like we are, our children are achieving based on what you would expect from who their parents are, and that we don't seem to be making the strides that we should when it comes to those that are traditionally underserved in our society. So I do think that if we were to look across our elementary schools especially, because we've got to get kids on the right first foot, I think that it is important that we make sure that we're offering equitable programming across the school district at all the schools. So if we have art and part in one school and not in another, doubled up gym, crowded classrooms, and we just shrug our shoulders and say that's the best we can do for where most people are crowded in starter homes, I don't think that's fair, and I don't think that is what we as Democrats should believe in. So I do think that putting more money into these types of programs, ESL programs, et cetera, and I do think that there are communities in Lower Merion that have been, haven't been brought fully into the conversations as much as they could, and I do think that whoever is on the school board next needs to make more of an effort to engage those communities and make sure that their voices and needs and concerns are heard, especially as we make these radical changes to the school district, et cetera, and the new school. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so the next question begins with Suba and Tanya, and back up here to me. The question is, do you agree with the district's budgeting practices? Why or why not?
Thank you for that question. I do agree with the district's budgeting practices. We budget conservatively in an affluent environment, which is what's required. We cannot make a mistake and fix it in another year, for example. So in terms of budgeting, we have a modified zero-based budgeting where we try to do things because they're required or necessary, not just because they've been budgeted. And in terms of the AAA bond rating wouldn't be possible without our fund balance, for example. Fund balance is a tenet of governmental accounting, and one of the things that we do is manage our fund balance very carefully. And in terms of the budget every year, different line items cause variances every year. It turns out to be that, you know, a harsh winter one year might result in additional costs and, you know, send our budget into the red. And so I do agree with our budgeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Sue. Tanya.
I could not have gotten the enrollment question. So I think that this is a tough one because I think that when it comes to the budgeting practices, it's hard to say whether or not the budgeting is being done well because there's a lack of, there's at least a perceived lack of transparency. There is a community that feels that they don't understand what's happening and they're frustrated and they don't know that their money's being effectively utilized and they feel blocked out and they feel that they don't have as much input. It's come up in a variety of ways, obviously, and I think that if we were to look at the situation we're currently in, I mean, we've spent the last couple of years saying that that it's going to cost $3 million a year in operating costs for the new middle school, and that we couldn't afford a $100 million school. All of a sudden, it's $120 million. It's still $3 million in operating costs, and I haven't heard any discussions, and I've been in a lot of these meetings, and I haven't heard any discussion about where that $7 million a year is coming from. If we were at the limit before, and now we need another $7 million a year, where's that $7 million coming from? Is it being cut from programs? Are there going to be are kids going to be going on fewer trips? Are we going to need a referendum? If we need a referendum, then have we built the trust and transparency and engagement in our community to pass a referendum? What needs to happen for us to provide the services that this school district needs and have committed to providing? People moved here for these things. And if we can't answer that $7 million a year, sorry, I'm coming up with 7 because I'm assuming that it's going to be $4 million a year on $120 million. But again, I don't know. So I think that we need to increase the level of visibility and transparency. I think we need to get people more involved. And if there's a way of us spending the money more efficiently or effectively, or determining what our priorities are to make sure that we're all on one page when it comes to what is important to us, then I think we need to do that. Thank you.
Thank you, Tanya. Mary.
I've been involved in structuring budgets for a nonprofit for 10 years, and it's not easy. There are many requests for funding in Lower Merion and Margaret for our school systems. And the process is tedious. It requires patience by all involved. The school board presents the budget on a predictable, reliable basis, and it's possible to follow with Vince Orlando's presentation or with the board's presentation. But it's not an intuitive process for people. Most people don't necessarily budget to the level of sophistication that Lower Merion School Board does. So it's important to introduce some varied learning style techniques, and I would suggest that one thing that would help the general public understand the budget is to create word problems, or at least to introduce text to explain the purpose of particular budget allocations. I think that the process has been transparent, and it takes going to school board meetings to appreciate that. I think that the aspect of adding an interpretive or explanatory paragraphs would help people to understand.
Okay, thank you. The next question begins with Tanya, then Mary, and Shane. And the question is, do you feel the curriculum in Lower Merion School District is where it needs to be? If not, what areas do you feel could be improved?
So there's quite a few areas where I think that that there could be improvements. Obviously, for 80% perhaps of the students, the current system works very, very well. What I've heard is there's a few areas where I feel that that there's a need to offer some more flexibility, and it's something that teachers have been asking for. First of all, for children who have different learning needs. We have not, if you look at the number of special education parents who are frustrated by their interactions and the battles that they describe that they go through to get their children's needs met, it's not acceptable. And it's when they have to go to lawyers, that means that the families who can't afford to pay for lawyers, which then again, if they win the case, they get reimbursed, but the students who can't afford the lawyers to begin with don't have their needs met. I think that when you look at, we've been hearing in the news about different reading curriculums, that there is a shift to, and there's people here who have more experience in this, but that there is different varieties of how we can teach how to read, and there's ways that have been proven to be more effective for younger children, and it might be an opportunity for us to modify how we educate the younger children. When it comes to the middle school and high school, there's been a few programs in the middle schools that have been very, very popular, and waiting lists for children to join. And I think that the fact that so many children find it to be so effective might mean that they are programs that we should expand and offer more children who feel that that would be a better learning opportunity for them. I think that there would be an opportunity to maybe expand those programs to provide that preferred learning opportunity for those children.
Thank you. Okay.
Curriculum is critical. Every child deserves the best opportunity and the finest education available through our community efforts in various ways. I can't overestimate the importance of an excellent education. My 5 children graduated from 3 from Harriton, 2 from Lower Merion, and I every moment would tout the value of a Lower Merion education. There are different approaches, of course, to reading. Some of you are aware that TE is going through somewhat of a survey regarding phonics and the role of phonics in teaching early reading and maintaining that. Obviously, there are different ways of teaching reading, and it varies depending upon the child. So in terms of our curriculum, I do believe that the transformative curriculum is truly that. I think that our natural and organic movement towards hands-on learning and skills building is where we're headed, and I believe in that. I think it's very important. We're looking at an elementary school population that is the Lego education minded. They have built since little kids in various ways, and I think that our new curriculum planning is going to address that.
Thank you. Jane.
So I will be upfront. I don't have firsthand knowledge of what the curriculum is like as a parent of a kid in the schools because I won't be one of those until the fall. What I do have is a background in education, and my degree in particular really focused a lot on best practices in curricular design, in teacher education, and in student education. So with that experience, I feel really confident helping the district to assess best practices in curriculum selection and design for gifted programs for kids with special needs, including learning disabilities and issues, and for our regular population, regular education population. I agree that the pillar, for me, I think going forward, that the transformative curriculum section of the strategic plan was incredibly interesting, and I found a lot of things that were really interesting. For me, what stood out the most was the focus on homework and how we can adjust that. I really believe that homework should be meaningful and minimal, that kids should be getting homework that they can do in a reasonable amount of time so they can do other things and that support their classroom learning. I like the use of holistic measurement tools like narratives and rubrics. I think kids get more valuable feedback and they're less focused on the specific number they're getting. I absolutely support arts education, music, dance, theater, anything like that is going to benefit our kids both in their personal experience and their academic achievement. And I like that they're moving towards things that are student interest driven. We had some second graders presenting at the curriculum committee. It was very cute and they really got a lot out of their assignment. And lastly, I really like the focus on interdisciplinary and project-based learning because it lets you make connections across different subjects for a more strong understanding and a more lasting and deeper understanding of the topics. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. So for our second set of questions, we're going to start back down at the other end of the table with Tanya. And it's going to be Tanya, Suba, and Sean. All right, we'll make our way back up. Here's the question. What are your thoughts about our students' day-to-day experience in school? What do you think is good and what may be challenging for our students? In your answer, please consider results from the 2018 Challenge Success Survey given to students, which indicated some students report feeling stressed and not engaged in school.
So if I remember correctly, there was some variety in the answers between the grades as well as the schools. So if I'm reading it correctly, this is one of those things I read once versus the numbers which I pour over. But I think that this is for over the last few years, and including this, there has been more of a prevalence of realizing that there is a concern when it comes to the stress level that our children have been feeling, and whether it's the pressure that they feel from the classes, whether or not it's the pressure they feel from their parents themselves, the time, the lack of sleep, that there's a big opportunity to reduce the stress level that our children are feeling. I, of course, can say that part of it might be just the amount of physical pressure they feel. Some of them, and speaking to my nephew, and the physical cramming in the class, in the hallways and everything, the intensity of the buildings themselves are leading to some of the pressure. And I know more about the east side, but I know that when it comes to the lunchrooms, the doubling up of gyms, that there's a lot of intensity there. But I do think that there has also been, Lower Merion has been putting a huge emphasis on trying to improve the mental well-being of our students when it comes to providing more emotional support for the children that need it. And they've been doing that with Montgomery County as well as with just the Lower Merion School District's services. So I think that it's something that everyone has a concern for it. Everyone has realized that this is a very high priority, and that if we don't take care of the emotional well-being of the children, if we don't take care of how they're growing and whether or not they love being at school, it doesn't matter what they learn academically. We're supposed to be making sure that their physical and emotional health, as well as their academic well-being, are all taken care of by the school.
Thank you. Susan.
So the Challenge Success Survey grew out of the strategic plan. The strategic plan has 5 pillars or 5 pathways. transformative curriculum, student-driven schools, a commitment to professional learning, a review of success and how we define success, and community involvement. So the Challenge Success Survey was given at the 2 middle and high schools. So the 4 schools took part in it last spring, and it gave us some results that we were very pleased with, like the fact that more than half of the students felt that they had an adult in the building that they felt comfortable going to if they had a personal problem or issue that they needed to take care of. There were other things that were surprising. So, like, for example, that the students actually had work after school, or that they were taking care of younger siblings when they came home from school. The one thing that we found kind of alarming or concerning was that there was a level of students who were just disengaged, not feeling part of the community, even though they were in every other way part of the community. So we needed to look at the disaffected youth. We need to look at what is going on with homework policies and stress levels with our students, and the strategic plan committees are actually looking at these right now. So thank you.
Thank you, John.
Thanks. Again, great question. And then as I think about the student experience and the Challenge Success Survey, I found them both very interesting, as Suba mentioned. I think there was some really great information that we were able to ascertain as a district through that survey. I definitely see that, you know, a lot of the stress that our students feel, one being in a very high-performing district, but it really depends on the child. Right? I have 2 high school students, both very different. I have my scholar athlete and my artistic eclectic child, right? And they both approach school very differently. One spends 4 hours doing homework, the other about an hour and a half, maybe. And they also, in how they interpret and take that stress level on to make sure that they're achieving some pressure from parents, some pressure from keeping up and doing what they feel is needed to succeed. But I was glad to see in the survey, and it was also bears true in my kids' experience, having an adult, whether it be a teacher or a counselor, to connect with to help them manage the stress, and also agree with some of the recommendations coming out of the survey in terms of doing more collaborative work and creating opportunities for them to engage so that they're not just kind of, I forget the term was, but basically kind of just doing school and kind of finding their way through. As well as taking a serious look and examining our pedagogy as it relates to assessment and how we are defining success.
Thank you. All right. Our next question is for Peter, Lucy, and Jan. What issues should be taken into consideration as the new middle school is built? And how would you support the community with regard to new feeder patterns?
Certainly the new grade configurations are going to present some new challenges. Earlier, some of the panelists mentioned earlier transitions than before, having a different mix of grades. So we need to make sure that the student experience is maintained, that we're applying the same sort of processes to help introduce kids to their new schools. As far as the new schools, I think the community where the new schools can be built, we'll need to make sure we carefully work with the community, make sure that traffic and noise considerations and all of those things are worked through. The travel times are going to be another issue that we'll need to make sure that the students aren't affected negatively by the location of the school and the feeder patterns. And then as kids move up through the grades, we'll need to make sure that we consider that, the keeping peer groups together and friend groups, and that we're not splintering schools, and that we're able to maintain relationships as the kids move up through the grades.
Thank you. Lucy?
Oh, I
Oh,
apologize.
sorry.
Thank you. With respect to building the new school, I do believe that we need to make sure it has and have a priority as the board is to really work with the community and work with the township, especially as we move through this process, because it is a two-way street with respect to, one is building the school and working with the community in terms of making sure that it's an appropriate and excellent and 21st century building, but also make sure that it fits within the community and within the neighborhood. And I think working with the township will be important. Working with the commissioners with respect to enrollment growth and new developments and how those new developments impact the school district and our enrollment. And then the flip side to that is, how does the school district impact the township? And I think that issue to be addressed there is around traffic, and I know that there are some concerns around traffic around in the area of the new middle school. Right now, I do believe that having the Gladwin Elementary School go to the new middle school does make a lot of sense. That's an area of the district where those families and those kids have been bused pretty far if they're going to Welsh Valley or to Harrington, not so much, but to Welsh Valley, and often they are the ones that have taken a lot of the brunt of the longest bus rides and the longest distance that they've gone through to school. I also am comfortable with the idea of Penguin Elementary going to the new middle school. I think it's really, really important that we look at historically when the district has approached redistricting. That has really impacted South Ardmore quite a bit, probably the most, more than any other neighborhood. And so I do think that we need to be very careful about that. And by pulling in both Penguin Elementary and Gladwin, that is one way to make sure that we're not hurting certain segments of our community.
Thank you. Thank you, Lisa. Jane?
So I'm really interested in the new middle school, and I'm really looking forward to, if I were elected, being involved in the design of the school, both in terms of giving architectural input, but also on curriculum design just from the bottom up, which I know is something I would also be able to do with our community, as I know they've come to school board meetings to give their input. One of the things I'd be looking at to do would be to integrate our kids with IEPs and 504 health accommodations, to just look at the design of the school with an eye of including them in inclusive classrooms, in providing spaces like an auditorium and a lunchroom that would accommodate kids with sensory issues or could accommodate kids that had physical disabilities a little better, hearing issues, so that they wouldn't have to be in a separate area and could be part of the group. I know a lot of parents have had certain worries, maybe would be a fair way to say it, about having 5th graders and 8th graders in the same building, and as such, I would look at having sort of a lower school, upper school separation with 5th and 6th graders in one area and the 7th and 8th graders in another area, which would also function as sort of a ramp where we could get kids ramping up in intensity of academics and in moving from the elementary level culture to the high school level. In terms of other things, there's some support programs that would be for the transition. I know Dr. Copeland was talking about at a meeting this week extending after-school programs for 5th graders, and as the new school comes in, including those at their elementary schools, and so they could have sort of a taste of back and forth and getting together. I also would, again, work with the community to make sure that they were not negatively affected by the traffic and noise as best we possibly could.
Thank you. Okay, so the next question, we have several more, is for Lucy, Shayna, and Mary.
What do you see as some challenges within the district's gifted and special education programming, as well as the process for obtaining accommodations for students with special needs? How might you address these challenges? Pass the mic.
So the common thread between gifted and special education and regular education is how best to teach students that learn differently, and how to encourage students who learn differently to be really engaged in the program. As I mentioned earlier, about a third of our students in our district receive special education services of some sort, whether it be special education, whether it be gifted program, or whether it be 504 accommodations. Two parts of the strategic plan, I believe, really speak to that issue: the transformative curriculum, and then also student-driven schools that provide different opportunities, interdisciplinary programs for kids that really thrive in that environment. I have one child that thrives in that environment, and another that wants nothing to do with it, is very more sort of interested in your basic or more traditional type of classroom. In terms of how best to do that, I think one thing that the district could do better and could really focus on is to do some additional training for the teachers for differentiation in terms of how teachers teach within the classroom, where you have kids of all different levels working together, and how best to engage all of them. And one of the best practices around that is around differentiation, so that you don't have kids that are zoning out at various times because either it's not interesting to them or they already know that. Another place where I think would be a lot of where there's room for improvement is improving communication with parents, and not so much about a back and forth, but so that parents really understand the wide variety of services and wide variety of programs that exist in the district. I think a lot of times parents aren't aware of everything that is available, and if we can improve that conversation, we can make sure that parents can more effectively work with their students and find the best programs.
Thank you. Jane.
So I think special ed absolutely needs to be one of the major priorities of our school district. We need to work with the families to meet the kids and meet the needs of these kids that are having IEPs and GIEPs or level 4 accommodations. I know in terms of access to these programs and to address the achievement gap from a racial perspective, that the district has recently instituted universal screening for the gifted programs in an effort to get kids whose parents might not know or be able to support their screening otherwise if it were voluntary. I really support a perspective of equity, which really means giving each kid what they need rather than trying to give every single kid the same exact things. I was able to hear Dr. Paul speak at the last curriculum meeting, and she is doing our program evaluation. She completed one for the gifted program last year, and so she had some interesting perspectives on how to improve our gifted program. And next year she'll be working on an evaluation for students that have an IEP. I really think this is a great thing for the district to be doing, because for two reasons. It's going to identify our most effective programs so that we can really support our kids in the best way for them to get the most academic benefit for them. And also, because we know what's working, that's where we can spend our money. It allows us to be fiscally responsible and to really spend our hard-earned tax dollars on what's working for our kids and really target on efficacious and proven programs.
Thank you. Miriam.
I'll share from firsthand experience. This is my 44th year of teaching uninterrupted. Obviously, I love young people and I enjoy working with them. Currently, I have a class of 22 at St. Joe's, and there are 2 young men who are identified in the autism program. And over the years, I've been able to develop a repertoire that customizes for every student in the class, and it is probably known as differentiated instruction. But if I were in the classroom here in Lower Merion School District, then I would encourage teachers to combine their efforts in sharing ideas and even modeling with each other so that there's a peer system where teachers can ignite each other's enthusiasm for teaching. The teachers here love teaching. I'm at Gladwin Elementary School every week for Latin class. Tomorrow is Latin class. I'm mentoring a student at Lower Merion, a football player, and I'm mentoring at Harrington, who's in the IB program. I believe that the way to really to maximize the benefits of the Challenge for Gifted program and the special ed programs is to elicit the wisdom, the training, and the will and the love of teachers in this district.
All right, so we're wrapping up our final fifth question for Mary, Peter, and Sean. What can the school board do to work together with the Board of Commissioners and Narberth Borough Council? And what are some specific areas that you might address?
Well, this is a longevity comment. Because I've been here for so long, I started at Villanova in '67, and because of our community involvement, my husband and I have been very involved in the community, we've gotten to know the commissioners as well as school board members. In fact, Lori had to leave, but Lori is one of my former Latin students. I am, if I would say one thing about myself, is that I enjoy meeting people and sharing ideas and building together solutions. We have a very, very gifted community here of educated, culturally apprised, very resourceful people, and our children reflect that. And I believe that the commissioners and the school board, to work together, can accomplish anything that we would like to the benefit of our children and to our community, for all children.
Thank you, Peter.
Thank you. You know, as with any sort of collaborative effort, it would be keeping the lines of communication open. You know, I think the three organizations are all there to serve the community and to help push us in the right direction. I think recently the Intergovernmental Council was started. I think that's definitely a step in the right direction. I think having the three organizations sit down and work through problems together, and recognize that we're all on the same team, it is really what it's going to take.
Thank you, Sean.
Thank you. Yeah, I definitely agree with Peter in terms of that transparency and communication is going to be key. Had the opportunity to attend the Intergovernmental Council meeting a few weeks ago, and just hearing how we work together between the school board and the Narberth Council and the commissioners to really move forward on the accessing the middle school and moving that whole project forward took a lot of collaboration and cooperation among those entities. And I think that going forward, it's going to be really a matter of continuing to engage, understand that as a school board member, we represent the entire district, but then also understand from the commissioners and the Narberth Council what are some of the issues and concerns of those more focused neighborhood concerns, and figure out together how we can begin to address those needs and move things forward collaboratively.
Okay, so this question, before we get to our final question, which will be for everyone, is for Suba and Tanya. The question is, do you support the Wolf lawsuit? Would you support settling the lawsuit with this issue behind the district? Suba first.
I wholeheartedly support the defense against the Wolf lawsuit. I do not believe that it is a good idea to settle, and we have been budgeting according to the law, state law, as well as government accounting standards, and the Pennsylvania Association of School Business Officials have said that we commended us on how lawful and effective our budgeting standards are. Therefore, I don't believe that we should settle. I think that it's an end run against public education. It's an end run around us and public elections. It's an attempt to change state law, which you can attempt to, solicit help with that at the state level. Thank you.
Thank you, Tanya. So I'm going to base my answer on what I've heard the superintendent say, which is that he said that Pennsylvania state law does not allow Act 1 exceptions based on enrollment, but they should. So whether or not the law should allow it or does allow it is what I've heard him repeatedly say. Whether or not he's speaking incorrectly or not, again, I'm going straight from the superintendent. Right now, we've spent, the school district has spent over $700,000 of their own money and $300,000 of our insurance's money to defend the Wolf lawsuit, which, again, we don't know whether we're going to win or not. We know our insurance rates are going to go up because of the claims we're putting in, and it's $700,000 that hasn't gone into anything else. Again, this doesn't have to do with whether or not I think we should have the money for school. It's whether or not the state of Pennsylvania has written a law in a certain way, and the superintendent has said they haven't. It's whether or not we're going to spend another $1 million on this lawsuit, and whether or not that $1 million has been well spent. Now, my background, over 20 years in HR, change management, mergers and acquisitions. Sometimes you have to settle. I mean, it's about, is it important to come to a consensus and heal, or to be right? And I'm not sure if this community can spend any more money or time or emotional energy being right. Again, I think these kids deserve every penny they can get. I'm just not sure we can win this, and I hate that, but if we're not sure we can win it, I'm not sure the second $1 million should chase the first down the tubes.
Okay, Tanya, I'm going to let you hold on to the mic because we're going to start the final question, which is for everybody. Tanya, and just right up the piano. The question is, what do you see as the top 3 priorities for the district? And please explain. And I just have to remind you, it's sort of a speed round, so you only have 1 minute per answer.
The top 3 priorities, I think the first is engagement with the community. It is ensuring that we improve our transparency and our engagement with the civics, the Board of Commissioners, and the community in general, as well as the families, and changing the way we communicate so that when we hold a meeting, it's not collecting the questions and never answering them, but ensuring that people feel they were heard and responded to. The second one would be ensuring that we have equity across the students so that we ensure that the children who are on the east side have the same opportunities as the children on the west side, that we are constantly looking out to make sure that we're providing everybody with a fair shake. And the third thing is ensuring the financial safety of this community's school district. It's ensuring that we spend the right amount of money on the right things. I was at a meeting where they were arguing whether or not to spend $25,000 to add a third color to the Heritage logo because we had an image we needed to uphold. And I'm just not sure that type of expense is what we need to be focused on. I think it's a time to prioritize.
Thank you, Tanya. Sorry, I couldn't see the sign there. Thank you, Sue.
Okay, my top 3 priorities for the school district, or top 3 priorities that are coming up, are implementation of the strategic plan. I believe that will answer a lot of questions in terms of efficacy, program evaluation, challenge success survey issues that were uncovered. The second priority that I would have is to close the achievement gap. I believe that that has been an issue for us as a township, and I believe that I would like to be on the leading edge of that. And finally, I would say managing enrollment growth and making sure that we have adequate building space, teachers, buses, laptops, everything that it goes with that. Thank you.
Thank you, Susan.
Great. Yeah, I would definitely say top 3 priorities in my mind would be, one, managing the enrollment growth. It's an issue that is going to continue to be top priority in Lower Merion as our population continues to grow. Then also how we are continuing to address the issues around the achievement gap. I think we're making steady progress. It's definitely included in the strategic plan and is a focused area for the district. And then lastly, of course, would be managing our fiscal responsibility and managing budgeting as it relates to growth and the other things that we need to do to meet the needs of the district.
Thank you.
Thank you. My 3 priorities would be to execute on the strategic plan. It's a very comprehensive plan that lays out a very ambitious vision for the district moving forward. Facing the fiscal challenges related to surging enrollment, the Wolf lawsuit, vigorously defending against that, and minimizing tax increases for the community as we balance the quality of education for our kids. And then lastly, continuing to focus on the achievement gap. It's been a persistent problem, not just in Lower Merion, but really nationally. We have the resources to become a leader and find more holistic solutions.
My 3 top priorities that I believe that the district is facing include fiscal responsibility, and that involves looking at the enrollment growth and understanding how best we can make sure that we continue to provide an excellent academic education for everyone, but doing that with review on fiscal responsibility. I also believe that we as a district really need to consider the holistic needs and well-being of our children, of our students, and making sure that we address the stress and and all of those things that go along with that. And finally, I want to make sure that all of the programs and everything that we do for the students, that we make sure that it's for all the students, that it's for kids that learn differently, and a part of that is absolutely prioritizing eliminating the achievement gap.
My 3 priorities as a school director would be first and foremost dealing with enrollment growth. I think that building of the new middle school is going to allow us to ensure quality. Coming with that is going to have to be an extreme focus on fiscal restraint and responsibility with such a large construction project. My second priority would be equity, that every kid, regardless of what program they're in, is getting the academic support that they need. That special ed kids are getting inclusion programs, that gifted kids are getting challenged, kids that are closing the achievement gap, and that kids in the regular education program aren't being left behind. I also want to focus on full-day kindergarten. It's provided by our neighboring districts in Plymouth Whitemarsh, in Philly City, and in Radnor, just added it this year. I would like to speak to Radnor officials to see how they did it, because I understand that it's a heavy lift, but it's not something we're ever going to get to if we never start talking about it. I wouldn't support counting existing programs, but I think during a time of transition, it's something we should very much consider adding.
Thank you, Shane. Yeah.
This will sound repetitive, but the 3 main, I think, shared goals that I see for us as a district, including all of our various communities and Norbert, are the careful management of our huge enrollment growth, and that entails the new 5 through 8 middle school in Villanova, which I visited a month ago and walked around. I got a tour from Firas, from Damascus, in and out of the building and all over, and it's exciting. Secondly, I believe the transformative curriculum meets K through 12 civics, and I think that civics is a good partner to social media. I think if our children in very engaged ways learn what it is to be a citizen taxpayer, will benefit. And finally, I believe that we are already shifting from knowledge-based curricula to skills-based. And skills-based will provide more opportunities for more students to succeed. And I think that we'll see an indirect result on minimizing or even eliminating the achievement gap.
Mary, thank you. And thank you all for the question and answer period. Made it. So we're going to wrap up now with our closing statements from our candidates. We're going to begin with Tanya and move down up to Mary. I'm going to ask my timekeeper, we'll give you a little extra time actually, because we had budgeted for 1 minute. I think we could do
Okay. 90 seconds.
Well, first I just want to say that before I get the gasp from the Wolf lawsuit thing, I'm not saying that we should concede and give him back all the money. I'm saying we should ask what he really wants and start a discussion about that. My background, as I said, I've been spending quite a few years with this. I've been probably spending about 5 to 10 meetings a month, learning about witnessing subcommittees of the school district, attending the general meetings as a member of the Federation of Civics, as well as the Penguin Civic Subcommittee that was working on the expansion issues. This has been something that I have been putting my heart and soul into for years. And it is something that I feel I wouldn't run if I didn't think that I had something to contribute that was unique. My background, I've been a labor negotiator. I have an MBA from Wharton, which gave me a pretty solid understanding of finance, strategic management, and that was my major, as well as marketing. And I feel that my background when it comes to change management would give me an opportunity to work with groups within this township to ensure that we figure out what our priorities are and how we can actually discuss our priorities and the challenges that we face, the families, the students, as well as the overall community. Thank you.
I want to thank the Democratic Committee of Lower Merion and Narberth and the other candidates for this forum. My name is Suba Robinson. I'm an incumbent school board director, current vice president of the board, and I ask for your endorsement. I want to continue the hard work to close or eliminate the achievement gap, implement the strategic plan, be responsive to enrollment growth, be fiscally responsive to the changing landscape of public education, be more communicative and more transparent. I urge you to endorse candidates for this May primary, and thank you all for coming and for your interest and attention to this very important role.
Sean.
Let me start by thanking all of the committee members for all the work that you do. Again, I come before you this evening as a lifelong Democrat, 12-year resident of Penguin, and parent of 2 students that have grown up in the Lower Merion School District. Over the years, I've worked countless hours volunteering in the schools, serving on committees, and on the district task force. I now seek your endorsement as the school board director to ensure that all Lower Merion and Narberth children have access to a 21st century education through the implementation of the LMSD strategic plan, access to equity across schools, curricula, and programs, assurance of fiscal responsibility, and assurance of open communication and transparency with stakeholders across the district. In closing, I recognize that there is much work to be done, and there are challenges ahead, and I believe that I have the experience and commitment to ensure the continued excellence of our schools. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you again for this opportunity. I'd like to close by talking a little bit about some of my recent work in education. I partner with many different types of organizations, including public districts and charter schools and private schools and nonprofits. One of my clients is a network of schools serving the poorest neighborhoods in Philadelphia. I started helping them as a volunteer, and eventually I was asked to become their CIO. This work is very much in line with my belief as a Democrat that all kids deserve a good public education. On another project, I recently created software for a Boston-based nonprofit that helps kids identify colleges providing low-income students with the fairest financial aid packages and producing the best minority graduation rates. So this software will help kids, disadvantaged students, find college success. I ask for your endorsement because I believe in public education, and I'll be an asset to the board as it faces upcoming challenges. And lastly, having run for this office before, I'm prepared for the responsibilities of campaigning and representing the Democrats.
Thank you. Lucy.
Thank you for the opportunity to be here tonight. As a lifelong Democrat, I especially thank you for all of the work that you do to help elect Democrats to office in Lower Merion and Narberth. I want to bring my extensive knowledge as a longtime parent and an experienced manager of government and nonprofit programs to lend expertise to continue to provide our children an excellent education. I value the active listening and making thoughtful decisions, but I'm not afraid to ask the hard questions and take a stand when necessary. I will advocate for an educational environment where all students have the opportunity to reach their full potential. I want to eliminate the achievement gap and provide appropriate and inclusive education for all students. I will utilize my analytical skills to make informed, well-grounded financial decisions that focus on fiscal responsibility and employ my collaboration and communication skills to engage the broader community in a thorough and transparent process. I also have experience as a city planner with a regional planning commission, which I believe gives me both valuable insight and relevant experience as the district moves forward with building a third middle school, especially with respect to working with our township commissioners and Narberth Borough Council. I am ready to take my knowledge and experience and skills to the next level as a school board member, and I ask for your endorsement for election to the Lower Merion School Board. Thank you.
Hi again, I'm Shana Kalish, and I just wanted to join the chorus of thank yous to the committee for hosting this forum and for inviting me to speak tonight. I wanted to take a moment to offer the one thing that didn't really fit into the question format, and that is how excited I am. Like, I know it sounds really nerdy, but I'm really excited at the prospect of being able to do this job. I'm eager to dedicate myself to the academic and social experience of our kids. Should I be elected, my highest priority is maintaining the academic excellence of our district. I'm particularly interested in serving on the curriculum committee and expanding kindergarten to full day. I believe strongly that the plan for the new middle school will both address rapidly growing enrollment and foster an environment of lower class size with greater levels of individualized attention from teacher to student. I'm committed to the long-term success of our schools for the benefit of all the children in the district, including my own. Having such young kids gives me a necessary perspective on the board and a vested interest in continued dedication for the long haul. The marriage of that experience and perspective is why I'm asking for your endorsement as school director. Please don't hesitate to ask me if you have any further questions. I'll be around afterwards. Thank you so much.
Yeah. I saved the best for last. I became a Democrat in 1970, and some of you weren't even born yet. And I will reference as I studied Greek and Latin. So demos is the root of the word democracy and Democrat, and the demos are the people. And we all stand here very impressed by every single candidate. We stand here and sit here to honor the people, including the children, every child in Lower Merion School District, including the borough of Narberth. I bring to this position, and I am then seeking your endorsement again, my 44 years of uninterrupted service to Lower Merion School District. I'm a practicing teacher. My husband and I just sold our business after 7 years, and we serve on the Narberth Borough Narberth Athletic Association. And I also want to announce that we are looking at a third-generation Brown in Lower Merion schools. Our son Brian and his fiance have bought a house in Narberth, and God willing, they'll have children who will attend Lower Merion schools. And my main expression to all of you is gratitude, because the participation of a strong Democratic Party and a strong independent group and strong Republicans makes Lower Merion and Narberth what we are. We are strong. If we don't know how to do something, we will learn how to do it. And I am very appreciative of all of your attendance. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. And thank you all for participating tonight.
Well, I want to thank the entire panel of candidates. Give them another round of applause.